In the last video, I had an amazing ride of Skytrek. After my ride, I went to the office to check out and let them know that I was back safely, but I asked them for a weather forecast, and unfortunately, we had rain scheduled. So I headed back to my amazing campsite. And quick tip, if you are going to camp on Willow Springs, ask for campsite number 5. I cooked one of my traditional gourmet dinners. Tonight is Italian with red wine and a chocolate course. My plan for day 3 was to go from Willow Springs up to another private property called Alpana. I went via Wilpena Pound to refuel, and then it was up through Razorback, Burkina Gorge, and up to Blinman, where I stopped for lunch. I took the scenic Bunyaroo Road, and it was really pretty, and it just kept getting better and better the further through I got. It is frustrating being in the national park. Obviously I'm not allowed to fly my drone, and there's just so much spectacular scenery that would have looked awesome. I made my way up to, without a doubt, the most iconic lookout, Razorback, and it was stunning. The views, the landscape were just gorgeous. Shortly after Razorback, I was continuing down that road and I spotted a couple of adventure riders down in the car park, so I thought I'd pop in and say hello. These 3 guys were from Victoria, and they were all on KTM 690s, and they will feature later in this video. Then I did a run through Burkina Gorge. While the scenery was beautiful, I actually found that riding through Flinders Ranges National Park was probably towards the bottom of my list of Flinders Ranges. I actually preferred most of the other rides to riding in the Flinders. And I think it had something to do with just the roads were dirt roads, so they were very easy. Secondly, there was quite a few people there, and I did enjoy the more remote parts of the Flinders. I finally got to Blinman, where I pulled in for a well-earned lunch. For my afternoon ride, I left Blinman and I did the loop which took me through Ardimore Ruins. I then also went out to Nukulina Copper Mine and then back down Glass Gorge Road. Finally, I refueled and then headed to Alpana for the night. After riding in the national park in the morning, I really enjoyed the remoteness of getting back out on the small trails again. The public access road was fun, it was enjoyable to ride, nothing too technical, but just really interesting scenery, and yeah, it's kind of quite a flowy track. And of course I was happy that I could fly my drone again. I enjoyed cruising around the ruins, and I find it really hard to just believe how people lived back in the early days. The landscape opened up a little bit more, and I just had some beautiful fast riding along great tracks. The track out to Nukulina Copper Mine was fun. It was a beautiful ride. course, the run down Glass Gorge Road is just absolutely breathtaking. So when I got to Opana, I was originally going to camp, but with the forecast of heavy rains, I decided to stay in the shearers' quarters. And what a great place to stay. If you're going to the Flinders with a group, come and stay here. It's incredible. It's got a really cool sort of little communal lounge room. It's got a well-decked out kitchen that you can use. And, you know, plenty of fridges to stock up your beer and drink, and plenty of places to cook. It's a really well set up shearers' quarters, and probably the best part is there's 6 separate bedrooms. Each one holds 2 people, and you just bring your sleeping bag and your pillowcase, and it means you don't have to put up with your buddies snoring. And it did rain that night. It came down pretty heavily, but luckily my bike and all my gear stayed dry. This will give you some sense for how much rain we had that day. So rather than try and deal with the wet and the mud, I actually did an underground tour of the Blimmin mine, which is pretty cool, and I just took a lay day and waited for the rain to pass. So after losing a day to the wet, I woke up and it was a beautiful morning, and I knew today was going to be a special day. I was riding the Mount Samuel track, and I got to say this, and the Victorians will hate this, but I think this could be one of the best adventure rides in Australia. And I'm going to go into this ride in detail, just show you why I think it's amazing. So I headed into Blimmin for breakfast, and I spotted my Victorian 690 guys, and I convinced them to come and join me on the Mount Samuel ride. So all of a sudden, instead of being solo, now I had a posse. The conditions were absolutely perfect. There was no dust, it was a perfect temperature, the lighting was just fantastic, nice cloud cover. We were all pretty pumped and excited to go and check out Mount Samuel. So it's time to put the drone away, and we were getting ready to get into the Mount Samuel track. Why I believe Mount Samuel is one of the best rides is because of its diversity. The first part of the ride is called the fence line track, and it was a just fun set of semi-technical riding, sort of going in and out of creek beds, up and down hills, flowy, fun, just really, really enjoyable riding. And it's interesting, I would sort of say this is a moderately technical ride, and it was technical fun. There's nothing too challenging, but you had to really concentrate, you had to really get your lines and balance right, but it was so much fun to ride. So about halfway along the fence line track, there was a beautiful lookout spot. So I pulled the bike up and I was going to get the drone out and have a little break. But then I noticed that only 2 of the 3 Victorians were with us, and apparently the third one had lost his bag halfway up that last climb. So while he got his bag re-secured, I just put the drone up and just took some footage to show how beautiful the views were from this location. Well, it turns out that he didn't just lose his bag. He lost his bag, and a sock got ripped up by the chain and got ripped into the chain guide. So this thing was jammed in here firmly. It probably took us about, I don't know, somewhere between 30 minutes and 45 minutes of just non-stop ripping, pulling, tearing, cutting, and pushing that chain to finally get that sock out. Finally, after removing the offending sock, we regrouped and got rolling again. It wasn't long before one of the Victorians pulled me up with their horn. Sorry?
His phone came off.
What?
His phone fell off the...
Oh. So within the space of 5 minutes, they had dropped a sock, a phone, and a jumper. And I was beginning to think they were just taking the piss. After the fence line track, then the ride changes and we get the hills. We get the hill climb to the top and then we get the descent into the gorge. And the hill kind of creeps up on you. One moment you're riding along sort of the, flat ground, then you just turn a corner and that's it, you're into the hill. And the hill it's a long, not overly steep climb, and it was actually fun. It was, there's good traction, the tracks were pretty good. But it just went up and up and up, and it was a lot of fun just to crank up. Often people ask me whether rides are suitable for big bikes, and yeah, I think this bike is definitely suitable. I would definitely ride my GS 1250 up here, although I will say it was a ton more fun on the 701. I screwed my line up here, and the Victorians pounced. The views from the top of the mountain were just unbelievable. Because there didn't have many trees there, you just had these panoramic views everywhere you looked. And you're looking out over those incredibly unique Flinders sort of mountains. We stopped at the top and just took it all in. And of course, what goes up must come down. The descent wasn't too challenging, you just needed to pay attention, but again, it was a fun ride down that mountain. After the hills, then you get to the gorge, and you're riding through Mount Buggery Gorge. Then, as you got out of the gorge, you popped up into the most amazing views of the valley. And this last part really is a fitting finale. This valley is just stunning, and the ride through it is just incredible. You know, when you're riding and like everything's coming together, that you're in the groove, the temperature is perfect, you're riding with a few others, and everywhere you look, it's just exceptional. That was what it was like riding down through this final part of Mount Samuel Ride. I was getting a sore face from just smiling so much. So up until I did Mount Samuel Ride, I reckon my best ever ride was probably Blue Rag down in the Victorian High Country. But I'm sorry, Victoria, I think this ride is better than Blue Rag, and for me it's better than any ride I've ever done in my life, either in Australia or the US. Just the diversity, the beauty and just the fun of the trails make this a really, really special ride. And then finally, as if all of that wasn't enough, we had a final run down through a riverbed, which was just a hoot to finish up the ride. As we got back to the main road, we were all sort of weary, but we made haste to Blinman Hotel for a couple of well-earned beers and a good feed. It was an amazing day.